So I've been off for the last week and I took a family vacation and I promised myself I wasn't going to do a video every single day like I normally do. I was going to use that time to recharge and relax and be with my family. And I will tell you this, during that time, I couldn't help but think about crypto because it was one of the most exciting times in crypto that we've seen in a while. So I did pay attention to that, and I used that time to reflect about the cryptos I owned, why I owned them, what I'm going to do with them. And I came to a realization that I was holding on to one specific crypto, kind of like a blankie, kind of like my safety blankie. But that safety blankie was getting old and mildewy and crappy and making me sick. So I'm talking about what I did with one of these cryptos that's been around a long time. It's the second largest crypto out there. I think you know what I'm talking about, Ethereum. And I decided to sell not all of my Ethereum, but a good portion of my Ethereum. And I wasn't a huge Ethereum bag holder or anything like that, but I looked at this as an opportunity to take advantage of some other movers in the market. And I'm very happy with my decision. Now, this isn't financial advice. I'm certainly not your financial advisor. This is just what I'm doing, and I'm taking you along for my journey. But I looked at what Ethereum was doing, and I looked at the long-term prospects for it. And I started to think that Ethereum, think about MySpace back in 2007, or I think it was around 2007. If you were alive back then, probably were. But if you were in MySpace, and it was not, I would say revolutionary. I mean, everyone had a MySpace. You got to kind of control what was on your page, make your page cool with music and different code that made your page do different things, and it was cool. But then Facebook came along and just wiped MySpace off the planet. And while MySpace was definitely revolutionary at the time, even though they had kind of taken from some other things in the past, it left as soon as it came. It wasn't there that long, and Facebook just cleaned up and is still around today. Well, I'm looking at Ethereum as kind of like MySpace, revolutionary, does a lot of things. But you got to look at if you're looking at a stock, if you're looking at buying a stock, you're going to look at its performance, what it does, and all those things. But one of the major things you're going to look at is the actual management and leadership. And that's where I have an issue, is because during all this time, in the last 6 months, I haven't heard much out of Ethereum, what they're doing, new partnerships. They've kind of coasted. Now, I could be completely wrong, and I'm not a huge studier of Ethereum, but it hasn't seemed that interesting. So with that in mind, let's remember that I do these shows every day except when I'm on vacation. And if you're looking to see what I'm doing along my journey, please hit the subscribe button now, like, share, do all those things. And with that, let's get right into it. So I look at the price of Bitcoin. Now look at what it's done since April 1st. And this is, I'm going to compare it to Ethereum and show you why I moved on from Ethereum, or at least my hopium from Ethereum. April 1st, we were right here with Bitcoin, and now we're pushing past the 95,000, testing 96,000 right now, or going to test it probably today, and it's gone up 12%. During that same time period, Ethereum, which had a little bit, people were stoked with the Ethereum pump, but look where it's gone since April 1st, down about 5%. So I look at, if I'm a stock holder, I dump the non-performers unless there's a lot of hope and, buzz about what they're doing to see if they will perform. I don't see that hope and buzz with Ethereum. Look at all of the socials out there. Now, I know there's big whales buying Ethereum and things like that, but I'm just looking at this going, man, almost all the sentiment out there is negative. Now, I know that's a good time to buy, and maybe Ethereum is going to come out with some revolutionary thing right now. But Bitcoin, I don't see Bitcoin going away. I don't see Bitcoin going away. Now, again, there could be a glitch, there could be something, but I'm just saying Bitcoin is around. Countries are going to stockpile Bitcoin. Companies are stockpiling Bitcoin. Individuals, whales, all these things. Ethereum, I just don't hear that same buzz about. And if you go on the socials, there's not the same buzz about Ethereum as there was last cycle or the cycle before. DeFi doesn't have, we're getting into TradFi, DeFi mixture, and that's kind of the future of crypto, in my opinion, is using these traditional systems and revolutionizing them with cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. And maybe Ethereum, I know you're going to say, well, Joe, look at all the layer 2s on top of Ethereum. Yeah, but those layer 2s could become layer ones very quickly. And then I look at Ethereum's competition that has absolutely been crushing it this past week. And let me just go to the bubbles here. Crypto bubbles. Actually, I have it over here. But anyway, they're just crushing it this week. And I'm talking about Sui. I'm talking about Solana. But let's look at Sui. Sui has had an absolute blockbuster week, 70% up. I mean, we're pushing up against $4 again. I mean, we were as high as 522-ish, somewhere around there, 524. You know, if you look at this chart, gosh, Pengu, virtual. I'll show you how I'm taking advantage of Pengu as well. But, you know, you look at this and the major, like this is a meme coin. I don't even know what Bread is. Trump, meme coin. But out of the non-meme coins, look at Sui. It is absolutely crushing it, 70% up. Where's Ethereum on this chart? Oh, yeah, it's not. You're going to see Ethereum, if you look at by market cap, Ethereum's up 0.7 on the day. Bitcoin's up 1.6. Well, good job, Ethereum. 2.8 on Solana. But if you look at where it's been in the last month, I mean, ETH is now down 2.6%. Fartcoin up 190, Pengu, virtual. But you look on here and Bitcoin's up 15%. Solana's up 21%. And I think the market realizes that there's a gap right now with Ethereum. So this is why I've sold my Ethereum. I sold my Ethereum. I took that money and I bought Bitcoin. Okay. I bought mostly Bitcoin, a little bit of XRP, and a little bit of Solana because those are the ones I'm really watching this cycle. And who's really performed this cycle? I mean, who has really performed? I'll just go back to the bubbles. If you look at the last year, who's performed? Sui up 216%, XRP up 349%, Bitcoin up 50% in the last year. ADA 54%, XDC 123%. Where's Ethereum? Ethereum has just not performed. Now, does that mean that it's time for Ethereum to perform? Does that mean that its breakout is coming soon? In order to have a breakout, you have to have excitement. You have to have energy around the breakout because these are very narrative based, and the narrative around Ethereum is not great. I could put up here videos of Ethereum's founder. I always say his name wrong. Vitalik. He breakdancing, but not him talking about the future of Ethereum. So that's why I've decided to leave most of my holdings, not all. I mean, I still have some Ethereum bags just in case, but not a lot. We're not talking about anything substantial. And just to have it, and I do believe that the layer, projects like Solana is so much faster and so much cheaper than Ethereum. Sui, who've been called a Solana killer, same thing, so much faster, so many projects, so much hype around this in a good way, and a lot of things happening on Sui where, you're looking at that going, well, what's going on Ethereum? So for these reasons, as the sharks would say, I'm out. Well, I'm not completely out, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so that's where I'm at. So I believe that the future right now, there are so many things. I thought about, what's the first video I want to do when I come back? There's so many things going on right now that are positive. I'm looking at this, if you're looking at the Bitcoin breaking out of this downward descending channel in a big way. I mean, we're busting through, the $95,000 mark. The next one's probably around 101,000. I think it was 101,250 or somewhere around there. The next level it has to break through. I truly believe, now this isn't financial advice, but I believe that we're going to hit we're going to break through the all-time high on Bitcoin. At the beginning of the year, and you can go back and watch older videos, I said that Bitcoin was going to go to 120 to 150 this cycle. Well, that seems to be a bear case now. I mean, with all, who saw all these positive things going on, with adoption of countries, companies, individuals, states, things like that. But, the 120 to 150, I've been called a bear for saying that. But, that's still an incredible move for something that has so much market capitalization. Had Bitcoin been, had $1 billion of market cap, yeah, I could see it 2, 5, 10xing. But when you're at 1 point whatever trillion dollars, that's a big thing. The only negative thing that I see right now is really the liquidation charts. And if you look at the liquidation charts, there's still a lot of capital that can be liquidated below where we are right now, the longs. But, to sell right now thinking that Bitcoin's going to go down and then rebuy back in and hope it goes back up, that's just too much of a gamble for me. I'm more of a holder at this point on my Bitcoin. I don't really want to sell because I don't want to miss out on what's coming. And who knows, any single day we could get news, whether that means the tariff narrative is changing rapidly, or, I don't see the Fed dropping rates in May, but the language they use could certainly turn markets very quickly. So all these things, I don't want to be stuck without holding Bitcoin in the next part of this run. So with that, I'm mostly out of Ethereum. I sold Ethereum, and I hope you understand why. I knew I'd make some people upset with this because there's a lot of people that just hold on to their bags without looking at what it's really doing and what the narrative's out there, and using hopium to survive. And I believe that Ethereum does probably have some room ahead of it. But in the long term, I try to hold, for the ones I actually hold, I try to hold coins or, cryptos that I believe will last the test of time, or at least through this cycle and the next one. And I certainly think Bitcoin is that one. XRP has shaped up. They have very engaged leadership. They're shaping up to try to be the payment system for the whole entire world. Don't know if they're going to achieve that or not, but I'm certainly willing to hold and find out. Solana, Sui, these are very fast moving layer ones that have the potential to take over Ethereum. And with that, that's all I got. Hope you got some value out of this day. If you did, hit the like button. Otherwise, I will see you next time.